Block letters can be made from reference grids. This is only one system of constructing block letters. There are many others with their own proportions and characteristics. These examples are constructed by using a reference grid that has 3 columns and 5 rows. Notice the dotted lines from certain points on the reference grid to other points on the reference grid that help you find the angles of the different letters. Also, you can notice that there are different kinds or shapes of the same letter. Here you have an M with 3 columns, but you could also do an M with 4 columns, or a W with 5. Also, you can modify different letters to have different kinds of curves, or have tops and bottoms on them, or not.
Let's take one simple grid and look at a couple letters that might give you some trouble. Circular letters are ones that people tend to worry about how they are constructed. Because 5 rows. Let's take the letter O. Break it down into parts. You know that it's oval in shape. It's flat on the top. It curves around the side, comes down the side, curves onto the bottom, comes across the bottom, curves up the side. Same on this side, till they join. Now it has a hole in the middle. Well, if we want each side to be equal and same as the middle, we know that we want the inside hole to be this wide. We also want the bottom to be this thick if the sides are this thick, and the top likewise. Well, it's possible to take the sides and curve onto the top here, curve back to the side here, come down, curve onto the bottom, and you have a 0 or an O. Again, let's note some things. If, when we make the curve down the side like this, we make it in one box, we can make it uniform with the rest if we pretend that it's part of a circle that fits into 4 boxes. That way, the one down here is 1/4 of a circle, this one's 1/4 of a circle, and so is this one. Okay, now I've got the outside figured out and what piece it is and what it looks like. How about the inside? It can't quite be the same circle because you haven't got 4 squares to make the inside as you do the out. No, let's think of it as 1/4 of a circle, 1/4 of a circle, and if we continued, we'd have a circle inside the square. So all letters, when you make curves, their arcs would be completed if you went around in 4 different squares for a circle. That way you don't end up with arcs that look something like this. They'll all have uniform curves to them. Now, taking different colored markers, I'll take our basic 0 or O, and I'll make it into some of the other letters that have common shapes. There's the O. Now, let's see if we can make it into another letter that is the same shape. If we want to make it a C, all we'd have to do is cut a slice out of one side. Now for another, a G. G like the C, only it has cut a little higher on the line, and it has the tongue that comes in. Let's come in halfway across to about halfway here to a width of the whole letter and back again, and we have a G. Now we'll try one a little more difficult than this. Back to our basic shape, and now we're going to make an S. Well, like the G, we're going to come halfway up in this row, second row, and we'll cut it across. We'll use the same inside turn, but instead of stopping, we'll come around like we're completing the circle. Then we'll come out this direction. And since it has to curve back down, we'll curve through this square. Then we'll just follow the O shape around until we come to here, which is the same place as here. Come into the center, follow the O shape and continue on around, come back out, and this square, curve back to the top, making a nice even S. If you look back to your beginning sheet, you'll notice that some of the letters have dotted lines, such as for an A, the outside lines are very solid. Then the dotted line starts here, becomes solid as the inside of the A, dotted, and solid. This is because if you want to figure the angle of the inside of the A, you can come from this point here down to this corner here. From this corner here to this corner here. Of course, you'll only use a small portion of this to finish your A. That is, the triangle inside here and the bottom angle like this. By lining these corners up, what you get is a related angle, similar to the related shapes we used earlier. The pieces of the letter flow together. They also keeps nice, even widths on both sides of the A. You will notice this is also done in the Y, the V, the W, and the M. As long as we're talking about W's and M's, let's look at how you would take a W or an M and you'd squeeze it. Here are the number of columns it would normally take for a W, the end ones being necessary for the legs that slant upward. We can make this into 3 columns merely by bringing those legs straight up. Here you have a W squished into 3 columns. If you turn it around, you'll notice it's an M. Instead of being in 4 columns, the M's now in 3. When it becomes necessary for all letters to fit in the same number of columns, adjustments can be made in these larger letters to have them fit and still look like they should.
This is the handout worksheet you're going to be doing. It has 3-column, 5-row reference grids for you to put the letters in. There are enough of them for you to do a complete alphabet. Reference grids may also be distorted. Here's some examples you could use. You are asked to draw the letters of your first name. Now, most first names won't all fit in there. So just start with your letters, and when you run out of room, you run out of room. Here's my example. I've used Artie. Notice I've used the first 3 columns, then I skipped a column, 3 columns, skip a column, 3 columns, skip a column, so that I have the 3 columns and the 5 rows for each letter. I also have gone from different points on the reference grid to other points on the reference grid to get the angles correct within the distortion. By following the reference grid, the distortion stays the same throughout. Next, you're going to use this kind of spiral grid to draw the letters of your last name. notice the arrow up here. This is where you're going to start with your name upside down, and you're going to use 3 columns, skip a column, 3 columns, skip a column. So your name comes around, sweeping down and getting larger as it does throughout the grid. Now again, you may have a long name and it may not all fit. As you can see, my name barely does. Here's the D, the A, and the N, the I, E, L, S, O, N as it sweeps around. And the final one, you're going to do a serpentine reference grid that's going to spell out Central High School, just like here at the bottom. You'll start out again, 3 columns, skip a column, 3 columns, skip a column. You'll notice I've left blanks here of 2 columns for in between words. To make it all work and fit, you have to use an I like it's down at the bottom. You have to use an I that is just a bar, like the one right here. So you're using 3 columns, skip a column. It just takes 1 column to do the I, skip a column, 3 columns, skip a column, and continuing on. So you'll end up with Central High School winding around. Remember, craftsmanship is very important in a project like this. Follow the reference grid so the distortion stays correct.